Hey guys, happy Monday. Just going to give you a little bit of a tour of this play that we're going to be doing. It's going to be a little different than I usually do it because we're social distancing and all that business. But we're going to have you assigned some parts, and I'm going to basically give you a quick little overview of the different characters that we have here. So, first off, this is like the typical juror table that you will see that's set around. And you'll get to know these characters a little bit better as we go along here. But to let you know how they're set up, all these characters are listed by their numbers, not their names. And that's actually for a very good reason. In a jury, they like to kind of keep things as anonymous as possible. That way, it's kind of protects you to be a little bit freer in giving your verdict. So names generally aren't exchanged. They're just kind of referred to as by numbers. And so here we have the foreman, which is also number one. And then it's going to go kind of like counterclockwise, actually clockwise, around the table here. We have juror number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Juror number 8, who we're going to see is probably one of the bigger speaking roles here. He's played by a very famous actor in the movie, Henry Fonda. Then we have 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. And so here you have the basic set. I've actually directed this play for adults before, and so like a lot of the sets have a very similar appearance. The entire play takes place in this one room, which is the jury room, which is kind of like right off of the courtroom. So like maybe through that door is where the judge and the whole audience and the defendants stand and all that happens. So the court trial already happened by this point, and now the jurors adjourn to the jury room, and they're kind of like locked in this room until they can come up with a unanimous decision. You'll see like a little old-fashioned water cooler here. Again, this is the 50s, I think 1957. And you'll also see off to the side kind of a bathroom, which they call the washroom here. And that's kind of like your typical restroom here. Now, of course, the audience sits kind of in the bottom left-hand corner here. And so because this is a play, that's why this is missing part of the wall here. That way, when there's characters who actually go into the bathroom, they're going to have some side conversations, as you do. And the audience can kind of hear what they're saying and actually see what they're saying and see all their expressions. But supposedly the other actors or the other characters are unaware of what's being said. So it's a great little kind of like private place for the audience to kind of hear what's going on, but not the rest of the jurors. Okay. So again, there's our table with 12 chairs around it. We also have windows which overlook the New York City skyline. This is set in New York, 1957. And now we're going to introduce to you the characters. I'll kind of give you a little rundown. I've actually also given them a bit of a nickname, each one, to kind of help you understand a little bit about who they are and kind of give you a sense of their biases and their personality a little bit here. So first we start with the foreman here. He is a gym teacher by trade. And so the foreman's job is actually to kind of be the group leader, speak for the group, kind of like a teacher often is. So this guy is used to working with a bunch of high school kids, kind of keeping them in line, doing what they're supposed to do. And now he has to do it for adults. So he's kind of comfortable with this role in one way, but it's adults, not kids. So that makes it a little awkward. But there we have it. Juror number 2, we call him Mr. Meek. He's a bank teller. He works at a bank, and he is a big nerd. If you see the movie, you'll notice that this character is actually the same character who is Piglet in Winnie the Pooh. If you've ever seen that, he has that kind of like really high soft voice, which is not very like big burly macho. So he can kind of get pushed around a little bit, and he's not very assuming or forceful many of the times. Here's the big forceful kind of like alpha person here on the trial here. This is juror number 3, Angry Father. He's going to be one of the big yellers, if not the loudest yeller, and probably the angriest of the 12 angry men. He's got some issues. We will see that he's got some things with his. He has some history of having his own son kind of running away, and he's kind of very angry at kids in general. And so when we have this defendant on trial, he almost kind of like transfers his own feelings onto that defendant. Juror 4, he's probably one of the smartest guys in the room. He is a stockbroker, probably well-educated, quite wealthy, and probably the wealthiest one in the room for sure. He trades stocks and bonds. He makes a lot of money, and he pays attention to details. And kind of like in contrast to that, we have Juror 5, who nicknamed From the Hood. He comes from a very poor part of New York City, probably like the inner city kind of part, the lower income parts generally, and he grew up that way. So he has a lot of sympathy for probably this defendant who also grew up in a similar situation. So he really kind of looks out for those people. You'll also find out that he is a nurse by trade, so he actually works in the hospital in the neighborhood where he grew up, sees a lot of the results of gang violence and whatnot. Juror 6, he is your ordinary average guy, your typical blue-collar worker, which means kind of like a tradesman. He is a house painter, and just not necessarily went to college, and not a super high education, but he's your average person. He knows what he needs to know. He's got good common sense. He's your ordinary average guy. Juror 7. He's also kind of an average person, but what defines him is that he's a big sports fan, and he's got tickets to this Yankees game that he's got to go see. And so he wants to get this thing over with and done so he can go to his baseball game, and that's what we know about him. Now, juror number 8, he is the architect. That is his job, and it's almost kind of like a very symbolic job because he sees like the inner workings of things a little bit, this interlying structure of things, if you will. We'll kind of see that pop out in the play. He kind of knows how to work the other characters to get his desired result. Very smart guy, but very open-minded. He's definitely portrayed as kind of like the hero of this story. And we'll talk about that as we go along. Juror 9, the old guy, the senior. He's kind of a lonely old man who lives by himself and doesn't get much attention or doesn't get out much. And so this is kind of a big deal for him to finally do something important and participate in his civic duty in this very important juror trial. He also is a very smart, wise old man, and he's going to surprise you many times. Juror 10. This is the bigot. He is the real jerk. He is a hater. He does not like immigrants, women, people who are different, you name it. So he's going to make a lot of smart remarks and a lot of kind of off-color humor. And when it comes down to it, you're going to see that he's just a real jerk. All right, juror 11, the European. He is an immigrant. He kind of has a little bit of a German accent. So he emigrated after the war, World War II, that is. And you will see that he is a watchmaker by profession. So he also pays close attention to details. He also takes his civic duty very seriously. He kind of came from a country that didn't have the same kind of justice system that we enjoy here. So he takes his duty as a new citizen very seriously, where a lot of other people kind of take it for granted. All right, and finally, juror number 12. He's the ad guy. He is kind of flighty. He's not the most attentive kind of person. He's always kind of half daydreaming about some new ad or jingle that he's going to write for some kind of commercial or for maybe to sell a box of cereal. That's the kind of guy he is. And so he's almost kind of like the comic relief a little bit, but he does play an important role a little bit later. So there you have it. There are the 12 jurors. And again, they do kind of sit all around this table. You're going to see kind of like, if we were to do this, I typically actually have a nice long table with people seated around it. And we can kind of really see that the interactions back and forth across the table, which is really interesting. I mean, you're going to see some nice stuff between 8 and 9 right off the bat. And that's just because they sit close together. And we're going to see the bigot is going to kind of like not be comfortable sitting next to the immigrant. And we're going to be seeing 3 kind of really yell across the table to a lot of people. But he's also going to be kind of buddies with 4. And that's just because they kind of sit next to each other. Of course, Mr. Alpha Male 3, the angry father, is going to intimidate Mr. Meek. So there's a lot of kind of like neat interactions between the people who sit next to each other. Something really kind of important to pay attention to. So please feel free to refer to this at any time. This is up on your Google Classroom as well. And I hope you guys have a lot of fun today.